Hey guys, Nick from Ellen Automotive again. Look, I'm going to continue with this CB450 resurrection slash engine freaking swap today. Got to get the engine out of the frame today, put it on the bench and swap the cylinder heads over, and also finish reassembling the cylinder head on the bench, ready to go back onto the engine. So sit back, relax, enjoy. If you've got any questions or queries, put them down in the comments section. If you could like and subscribe, be much appreciated. Thanks for watching, guys. Let's get on with it now. stubborn as anything, this shit. After 30 bloody years of frickin' bacon, fair dinkum. If you're going to do it, might as well reseal the whole bloody lot, guys. No sense frickin' assembling it with whole gaskets. It's just going to turn around and leak. I don't need those headaches in life. I want this done once for a long time. Hence why I bought a complete gasket and seal kit. I'll replace the whole lot while I'm in here. I like the 3M tool I got. It makes cleaning up the alloy really good. But make sure you pick the right abrasive pad though. Blue weed wheel is for aluminium, brown is for cast iron. Do not use a brown on the aluminium because it will chew straight through, mate, and create an unlevel surface. You've got to be gentle with even the blue one to ensure that you don't frickin' create warpage in these components. Takes a bit of frickin' practice. Gasket out of the kit to suit. I also find installing the rocker arms in the cylinder head first before dropping the cam in makes things a little easier too. I sit the cam in after I've got the rocker arms in, and then I slip the bearing cap holders on either side to support it. Sometimes it needs a little bit of a love tap to get it to go in and sit in its home. Trick to get the rocker arms to stay in the right place. If you're decisive enough, it should work. Famous last words, as they say. So about it there. Try and position the arms as much as possible, as close to where they would naturally be sitting. So that way pivot arms for the rockers can slip pretty much straight in. This one here seems to be a little bit difficult. Some people don't like my technique of coating the gaskets with a little bit of adhesive compound. In particular, I use an RTB silicone. I do so to compensate for any potential porosity and imperfections in the surfaces of the cylinder head where the gasket surface mounts up, and that minimises the chance that silly thing's going to leak. So I like the idea personally, each to their own though. What I also recommend is running a little bit of oil inside the actual support where the camshaft sits, so that way it won't run dry on first startup. I also recommend turning the engine over to make sure that oil pressure rises and oil gets circulating prior to starting the engine up. It's an important step, and that will improve the engine life. So you won't have dry surfaces rotating metal on metal. And I apply sealant. I don't put copious amounts on, I put a thin bead on there, then I knead it around to spread it evenly. You don't want too much on the gasket, because that can break off and potentially block the oil pickup in the sump, which then can cause oil starvation and destroy an engine. And I've seen that happen multiple times in the past. So I always recommend you don't run too much sealant on gasket material when assembling an engine. Lube in the hole there, mate. Finger it in there nice and proper. And carefully line this up the rocker arm internally. Just feel around for it until you find the hole, as it were. Tap home once you're in the right position. Shouldn't require too much force to go home. If it does, reassess the situation. Do not force it, okay? Because there may be a reason why it's not going to where it should be. I have a set of Allen key screws coming to replace these ridiculous Phillips head screws, which have been on and off that many times that they're rounded. They're not here at the moment, so I'm just going to assemble with the Phillips head screws for now, and when the proper screws arrive I'll be installing those. I don't know if they're going to work okay inside this section here, because there is an advance plate for the points, and the height of the screws may need to be trimmed where the head is to allow it to operate without interference. That's something again we'll find out when the screws get here over time. The plan today, I want to have the head fully assembled, valve clearance adjusted, engine set to where it should be timing wise, so that way when I get the other head off I should be able to slip this straight on, torque it down, run the chain in, install the tensioners and all the idlers, and we're ready to rock and roll and drop it back in the frame. But anyway, that's the old shaft seal that I replaced to minimise the chance of leaks once again. And it's also important to note I have put all new valve stem seals on this engine as well. Again, I really don't want to see any oil leaks out of this thing. I'd like it to be sealed once and done. Now I'm going to try installing the drive shaft of the tachometer into the camshaft first, because there is a gear that doesn't require alignment with the gear inside the driven tachometer side to make it easier to install. I might even pull the drive mechanism out of this bearing cap slash rocker arm support to make sure that it doesn't balk my ability from being able to put it in. I highly recommend replacing the tachometer drive seal which came in this kit that I purchased online. Again, I really don't want any oil leaks, guys, so let's minimise the chance this is going to happen. When you think about it though, an oil leak from the tachometer drive seal might actually help lubricate the tachometer cable and make it last longer. The irony. Here's a tachometer drive shaft is held in by this plug. I'll be removing that next to allow me to remove it. One's favourite tool, shifter. This one. Third time's a charm, 19mm. For those of us that are watching from overseas in America, it's close to 3/4 of an inch. This thing is really freaking tight. Try and socket on that, guys. That's the old seal. Try and get this on, of course. Don't forget, I need to reinstall the rocker arm support fulcrum. I'll leave that loose to try and make it easier to line up with the rocker arm inside the engine. It does need a little bit of give. It's always a good idea to put it onto the timing mark so when the cam goes in, it's pretty close to where it should be sitting. That is pretty much in there. Have a close look. That's the factory timing mark there. Notch on the cam, notch on the cam follower. There wasn't one on the intake cam, so I made one with a screwdriver and a hammer. And they basically align together like so. So I can put it back to where it was before. There may be other marks somewhere that I haven't found, but at the end of the day, that works for me, so I'm going to live with that. And we knew this head came off a running engine, so chances are cam timing was correct. I'll be double checking these marks with the manufacturer's workshop manual, which I've downloaded, just to be 100% sure. And again, I'll be replacing all of these screws with Allen key head screws once it's on the vehicle. I forgot to pick them up on Friday. I did get a call from my local engineering shop who ordered them in for me. Didn't quite get around there to picking them up when I should have. There's been a few people by the looks of things over the years have mucked around with this and installed incorrect screws and rounded them off trying to do things and what have you, whatnot. So it'd be good to have a decent set of screws that we can put in that will actually make tightening and loosening things and getting things right a lot easier, that's for sure. Swap those two screws over. The head on this one here has been butchered pretty bad, and I can't put it all the way in at the moment because the casing is getting in the way. Put it over here where there's no webbing, it's going to get in the way. I should be able to tighten that other one right down for now. Just want to make sure that the gasket has been crushed properly and gives the adhesive, the RTV silicone, a chance to properly dry and the gasket to compress properly as well. As you noticed from the last video, I did like to run a tap through all of the screws holes just to make sure that the threads were clean and that we wouldn't have any issues. Putting these screws in, found it actually felt really good, so happy to say that it's all good, and also helped us figure out what the thread was. These engines are Japanese, therefore they are running metric. So yeah, the threads were M6 1.0, so 1mm pitch, and what do you call it, 6mm diameter bolts. Just grab that shaft, yep, it's there. Tachometer drive is working correctly, as you can see. I've just got to adjust the valve clearance next. Once that's done, we can say the head is finished. Given this is a two-cylinder engine, it will be best to adjust the valve clearance once the cylinder head has been reinstalled and the cam's timed up. So that way I can turn the engine and make sure that I can set the valve clearance on both the intake and the exhaust side respectively according to cylinder 1 and cylinder 2. Cylinder 1 is the one closest to the point drive mechanism. Cylinder 2 is obviously the opposite side, and the timing marks seem to coincide with these lobes being in the top dead center position, which is the intake and the exhaust and the intake cams. It'd be a good idea to do it that way. So this head's pretty much complete, guys, and ready to go on, with the exception of installing a couple of the overkill idler bloody chain guides and stuff like that. I'll be doing those now, and we'll proceed with pulling the engine out of the frame and getting it on the bench to prepare it to get the head on. given that this bolt here can potentially come loose, guys, I would highly recommend Loctite on that at least. I'll be running Loctite on all, what have we got here, 5 of those bolts, just to make sure they don't come loose while the engine's running, drop into the timing cover, and the calamity that would ensue afterwards by losing a chain and what have you and whatnot. I don't think there'd be much of a difference between the different grades of Loctite. I think you'd just be right to use pretty much any Loctite that you've got lying around. End of the day, it's all about making sure they don't come loose, that's all. You can imagine the mess it would make in here if they did come loose, mate. It would be pretty much game over, guys. If you're that way inclined, you could be using a torch wrench right now, but I like to use my She'll Be Right specs to get things tightened down accordingly. And they've served me well all these years, guys. This one feels a bit ordinary, so I'm going to pull that out, make sure the hole's clear, and reinstall it. It's important not to force the situation. It should go in nice and easy until it bottoms out. I have had instances where there has been excess fluid trapped in a bolt hole, and attempting to tighten the actual bolt has caused the aluminium around it to crack because it was almost like a hydraulic pressure build-up of sorts as it was going in. The operative point, doesn't feel right, don't force it, guys. What I might do is get a tap and just run it through that hole just to be 100%. Try the bolt one more time. If that doesn't work, then we'll grab the M6 1.0 tap and give the threads a bit of a clean just to be sure. Yeah, it still feels a little tight going in, so I think it might be an idea to give that thread a bit of a clean, guys. A lot of crusty bits towards the bottom of the hole, so I'd say the hole had a fair bit of carbon and debris and stuff built up. Just like panel beating, prep work is a key, guys. Don't take shortcuts. see how it feels. That definitely feels a lot better than before, guys. Went down without any real hesitation. I'm going to install the actual guide collet. It sits in the side there, if that's what you want to call it, or guide dowel. Apply a bit more Loctite compound to the threads and send it home. There we have it, guys. Sealed head complete, ready to go back onto the engine. I'm going to proceed in the next video with removing the engine from the frame, putting it on the bench and stripping it down and getting it ready to put the new head on. Thanks for watching, guys.